The restaurant went quiet for just a second, the kind of silence that only exists in moments when people don't mean to stare but do anyway. The glass doors opened, and she rolled in slowly, confidently, sitting tall in a sleek wheelchair that reflected the warm lights above. Her posture was strong, her expression calm, but the weight of 100 invisible judgments filled the air. This was not how most people imagined a blind date beginning, and yet here she was, arriving anyway, exactly as she was, daring the world to meet her without flinching. Before the story goes any further, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, in judging people by their hearts instead of appearances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because people like this exist. Her name was Elena Carter, though very few people knew that behind the headlines. To the public, she was the brilliant female CEO who had turned a struggling tech company into a global success before the age of 40. Business magazines praised her sharp mind and fearless leadership, but none of them talked about the accident that had shattered her spine 6 years earlier. None of them talked about the months in hospitals, the pain, the humiliation of relearning life from a seated position, or the slow disappearance of friends who didn't know how to stay. Success had not erased loneliness. Power had not filled the empty evenings. That was how she found herself agreeing to a blind date she almost canceled 10 times. Across the room sat Daniel Reyes, a single dad who had arrived early out of habit more than politeness. Life had trained him to be prepared. He worked 2 jobs, packed school lunches at dawn, and kept his phone volume high in case his 8-year-old daughter's school ever called. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, leaving behind silence, grief, and a little girl who looked at him like he was the only solid thing left in the world. Dating was not something he took lightly, and blind dating felt especially reckless. Still, something had nudged him to say yes. Daniel noticed the wheelchair immediately, but what struck him more was the way Elena paused at the entrance, scanning faces, reading reactions. He recognized that look because he saw it every time his daughter walked into a new classroom after they moved. It was the look of bracing for disappointment. Without thinking, he stood, not out of obligation, not out of pity, but because standing felt like the right thing to do when someone arrived. That simple movement would later become the moment Elena replayed in her mind over and over. The date did not begin smoothly. Elena had learned to armor herself with professionalism, to keep conversations efficient and distant. Daniel, on the other hand, spoke with the unpolished honesty of someone who had been stripped down by loss. They talked about work, about parenthood, about exhaustion that sleep could not fix. The wheelchair hovered between them like an unspoken question, and Elena waited for the moment when his eyes would drift downward too long, or when sympathy would leak into his tone. It always did. She was tired of being inspiring. She wanted to be normal. What she didn't expect was the way Daniel listened. Not the polite nodding people used to appear kind, but real attention. He didn't rush to fill silences. He didn't soften his words around her. He didn't treat her like a fragile success story. Instead, he spoke about his daughter, about the guilt of feeling overwhelmed, about nights when he sat in the dark after she fell asleep and wondered how long grief could last. Elena felt something shift inside her chest, something unfamiliar and dangerous. She felt seen without being examined. Halfway through the evening, a small logistical problem arose. The restaurant layout made moving around difficult, and Elena quietly prepared herself for the familiar embarrassment of asking for help or pretending she didn't need the restroom. Before she could say anything, Daniel noticed her hesitation. Not the wheelchair, but the hesitation itself. He didn't assume. He didn't hover. He simply adjusted his chair, giving space, signaling awareness without intrusion. That subtle respect hit her harder than grand gestures ever had. As the night went on, Elena found herself laughing, actually laughing, not the practiced kind she used in boardrooms. Daniel told stories about burnt pancakes, mismatched socks, and how his daughter believed broken things could always be fixed if you were patient enough. Elena listened, imagining a life that didn't revolve around elevators and accessibility reports, a life that included warmth and chaos and small hands reaching for hers. Then fear crept in. She had learned that hope could be cruel. When the bill came, Elena reached for it automatically, years of independence making the motion instinctive. Daniel paused her gently, not insisting, not asserting dominance, but suggesting they split it like equals. It was a small thing, but it mattered. Too many men either tried to prove something or disappeared altogether. Daniel did neither. He treated her not as a CEO or a woman in a wheelchair, but as a person sharing a meal. Outside, the city air felt cooler, heavier. Elena prepared for the ending she knew too well, the polite goodbye, the promise to call that never came. She braced herself as Daniel walked alongside her, pushing nothing, fixing nothing, just matching her pace. Then something unexpected happened. He asked her if she would like to meet his daughter someday. Not immediately, not as a test, but as a possibility. The question carried weight. He wouldn't have asked if he didn't mean it. That was the moment Elena felt stunned, not because of romance, but because of trust. Single parents guarded their worlds fiercely, and he had opened a door without hesitation. It terrified her. It warmed her. It made her realize how long she had been preparing for rejection instead of connection. Over the following weeks, their lives slowly intertwined. Elena visited parks she had avoided, learned to navigate spaces through Daniel's patient presence rather than forced accommodation. Daniel watched Elena juggle global meetings and physical therapy with the same determination. There were hard days, days when Elena's pain flared and she pushed people away, days when Daniel's grief resurfaced and made him distant. But they stayed. They chose the discomfort of honesty over the safety of distance. The real test came unexpectedly. A major company event required Elena to give a keynote speech at a venue that claimed to be accessible but clearly wasn't. Ramps were steep, entrances narrow, and staff unprepared. The old humiliation returned, hot and sharp. Elena considered canceling, letting someone else take her place. She had done it before. Daniel watched her wrestle with the decision, recognizing the familiar fight between pride and exhaustion. What he did next left her speechless. He didn't encourage her with empty words. He didn't step in to rescue her. Instead, he showed up early, spoke calmly to organizers, rearranged seating, and ensured accessibility, not as a favor, but as a requirement. He stood quietly in the background while Elena took the stage, commanding the room with brilliance and authority. For the first time since her accident, she felt powerful without feeling alone. As applause filled the hall, Elena searched the crowd and found Daniel holding his daughter, who was clapping the loudest, eyes shining with admiration. In that moment, Elena understood something profound. Love was not about being carried. It was about being supported while you stood or rolled on your own strength. Near the end of this story, if it's touching something inside you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Months later, Elena hosted a quiet dinner at her home, not a grand celebration, just warmth and laughter. Daniel's daughter sat beside her, explaining her drawings, leaning comfortably against Elena's chair. The future still held uncertainty. Pain didn't disappear. Life didn't become perfect. But it became real, layered, and full. Just before we end, leave a comment below telling us what part of this story moved you the most or what kindness means to you. Because sometimes, the most stunning thing isn't what someone does for you, it's how they choose to see you. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please engage with it. Someone out there needs to believe that love can meet them exactly where they are.